back, ladies and gentlemen. 2024 is on the horizon as we close out 2023. This is the Kaulig Nation podcast, and I am Sean, joined by the first time in a while, my counterpart here, definitely the glass half full side of the equation, Ryan. What's going on, man?
It's not too much. Happy to be back. It has definitely been a hot minute since we've had the opportunity to get together and talk Kaulig Racing, talk NASCAR, and I know it's been a little bit of a disappointing end to the 2023 season, but finally I think a little ray of sunshine occurred last week, and something to at least look forward to going into 2024. So, as you said, I'm the glass half full and kind of happy, excited again as the new season rolls around.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff to talk about. There's still somehow unanswered questions, which is a little scary at this point. But on this episode, we're just going to focus in on what Kaulig's doing in 2024. We'll have a more comprehensive episode after the holidays, just looking at NASCAR as a whole and what 2024 looks like, including more in-depth talk on Kaulig. But man, here we are. I could spend another 2 hours ranting about how I feel last season was handled and the PR things that happened during that time. But that has come and gone, and we're now living in a world where we're post that and still don't have all the questions answered. But there are some somewhat exciting news, at least for the imminent future, that we'll dive into here. But just what are your true, honest to God feelings about the organization at the moment and its direction, or perhaps lack thereof?
Yeah, I tell you, I'm very confused, I think is maybe the best way of putting it, because they had such a I'm going to say such a strong year in 2022, right? Like the build up year one was so good, and we went into 2023 with all these high expectations and high hopes, and from a performance standpoint, obviously they didn't execute as well as we'd like, but they were okay. And I figured, they could roll that into 2024 and status quo would have been relatively okay, small improvements here and there, but clearly there was a major shift within the organization. It all started, I would say, with Justin Haley's departure. I think that was definitely unexpected, and that kind of created a bit of a snowball effect that I think got out of control. That Chris Rice, Matt Kaulig kind of lost control of the situation, lost control of the organization, of the race team, their direction, and then they were just scrambling. And the scrambling, I think they lost their way when they lost out on Austin Hill, and then that just sent them down again, just a spiral that they haven't really recovered from. And I think there was a time not even a month ago that we were concerned that they might not even be in business, let alone field competitive race teams. And now things have kind of shifted back a little bit more positively with, I think, finally a little bit of clarity on what AJ Allmendinger's doing. And while it might not be what we were hoping he was doing, at least we know what he's doing and what the plan is. And then, bringing in SVG, which is obviously a major topic for tonight, will at least, I think, stabilize the company for this year. So I'm very confused with where they're going and where the future is, but at least they've stopped the bleeding.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm as positive as you are, but I will say the SVG loan, because that's what it is at least a bright spot in what's been otherwise a very dark time. I'll give my brief thoughts on where I think things stand right now, and then we can break it down all individually. Excuse me. I like AJ Allmendinger should be in the Cup car full time. It's that simple. And people can, throw the funding thing out there, and I'll point at Daniel Hemrick and point out the fact that Circle's a Kaulig company, and if they really wanted him in that car, I think there was a way to get him in that car. But I have zero hope for this team on the Cup side of things. Daniel Hemrick does not do it for me. I think he's a good guy, but I thought he underachieved in his 2 year. It was 2 years in the Kaulig Xfinity program. I think he's underachieved.
Correct.
The second year was definitely better than the first year, no doubt about it. But he's underachieved and been underwhelming, in my opinion. And then we somehow still don't know what's happening with the 16 car, which, if I had to guess, the only reason they haven't named Ty Dillon yet is the fact that maybe it's not Ty Dillon full time. Maybe it's Ty Dillon part time alongside AJ and SVG. But I don't know, because like I would have a hard time selling it AJ on so we're bringing in SVG. And maybe he's going to run some cup races, but there's not really clarity on that yet. You have some of the industry's biggest reporters saying it'll be in a Kaulig Cup car, and then you have the other side of them saying it's going to be in a Trackhouse Cup car, which would make sense to me. So, I don't know. I know a couple of weeks ago you'd mentioned to me you thought AJ might get upwards of 16 races on the Cup schedule. I don't think it'll be anywhere close to that personally. He might get 10. If he's lucky, but I suspect it's going to be a multi-driver entry. I think the 16 car almost becomes the 10 Xfinity car from last year, is how I see it playing out. And then you got SVG, obviously, in a Kaulig Xfinity car, even though, it's got Trackhouse font on it. Like they're going way out of their way to let you know Kaulig entry, but still Trackhouse. But he's going to work with AJ, and I think AJ, there's no better guy in the industry right now, man, to bring this guy along, in my opinion. And as much as everybody loves Josh Williams, I think that will show itself to be probably the worst full-time Kaulig Xfinity entry in some time.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack with and what you just said is pretty much on the money. There's nothing I can really argue with. And I would, as the calendar rolls into 2024, and we still have no verification of who's going to be driving the 16 Cup car. Listen, let's reel it back a couple months when we did our episodes of who we thought was going to get the car, and one of our options was multi-drivers, right? I think multi-drivers is the winning answer from that poll you ran a few months ago, while they haven't obviously come out and said that with this much clarity. I think that the fact that no answer at this point is the answer, that there is no full-time driver. AJ is going to get plenty of starts, and again, whether it's 10 starts, 16 starts, or 20 starts, we don't know. We'll have to see how the funding plays out. But it's going to be a multi-driver deal. At this point, there's no driver even worthy of putting in the car now full-time, now that Noah Gragson's been officially announced in the 10. And thankfully, truly thankfully, we can at least confirm Ty Dillon will not be in the 16 car full time. Again, maybe he gets a handful of starts here and there if he brings a little bit of funding, but at least it's not a full time deal. And, Matt Weaver, who is a very reputable reporter, has more or less said Ty Dillon has no deal at all currently. So what that means for him and what might come together at a later date is to be determined, but at least it's not Ty Dillon in the 16 car. And frankly, I don't care if they pull multiple Xfinity drivers or drivers from the outside. Maybe they pull in more V8 supercar drivers. Seems that's a big trend going into this upcoming year, that they'll have that option. And you're right, for SVG, clearly he is being funded and supported by Trackhouse. The words alliance was thrown around quite a bit. And, I'm okay with that. If there's a Trackhouse Kaulig alliance going into 2024, I don't know if that's going to help the Cup performance. I hope it does, but obviously we don't have really good Cup drivers going into the year. But if there is an agreement with setups, strategies, something that can help them be more competitive, I'm all for it. But listen, that Kaulig car with SVG driving it will be pretty competitive. I fully expect SVG to run well most of the year. And he is going to struggle. There's no question he's going to struggle on ovals. But he's a fast learner, and I expect him by the midpoint of the year to really come around and start competing regularly for top 5s and top 10s.
I hope the plan is for him to lean on AJ because there is no better person that could help him with that transition. To be honest, I'll tell you one thing: unless there's a plan to, I tend to believe they are going to run the 10 Xfinity car. I don't think it'll be full time, but I think that car is going to be on the track this year a few times. And I point at Chicago. I could see Justin Marks running the 10 car in that race. So I don't know how many other people are going to be involved, but like Kaulig is going to struggle on super speedways. There's no other way about it. Josh Williams doesn't really have a pedigree there, and SVG will very much be learning what to do there. So it's not going to be the days of Chastain, Haley, and Allmendinger going out there, and it's going to be really hard for AJ to gain valuable points and track position on those tracks now because he's not going to have the experience in the other cars to help him out. That being said, boy, if you're that Xfinity field who has 7 or 8 road course races,
I think there's a 7, but yeah, there's quite a few.
Good.
Don't even show up.
Good luck.
Yeah, don't even show up. Save the gas money.
Other than Ty Gibbs showing up to run some races, which I don't believe he's scheduled to do. Was he a part of that lineup announcement?
He was not. It does not look like he has any races for JGR in the Xfinity Series next year.
I still wouldn't completely write off the possibility of that, but if he's not, my God, good luck taking on the Kaulig cars. It's gonna be fun to see. It's gonna remind me of the old NHRA days of the Dodge boys.
Yeah, I tell you, the only 2 drivers that'll even be competitive will be Sheldon Creed, who, even though he hasn't won yet, has shown to be competitive on road courses. And honestly, he won the last 2 road course races for Junior Motorsports. Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer has clearly got a pedigree for it. So I think it's going to be a 4-man show there for those races. But truly, if anybody not named SVG or AJ Allmendinger win a road course in the Xfinity Series next year, I will be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, road courses, especially at Xfinity, get crazy, and there's damage, and there's cautions left and right, and it ends up being just a complete shit show at times. So I suspect our guys will get caught up somewhere along the way in some of that shit show. And that's where other guys might be able to execute. I still think guys like Justin Allgaier and even Sammy Smith in the Junior Motorsports cars are gonna have a shot. It might disappoint people, but I was this close to being completely off the Kaulig bandwagon. I still don't agree with a lot of what's happened and a lot of how they handled things. Kaulig Cup side doesn't interest me at all, other than when AJ's starting races. I'm just being honest. That's the direction that they chose. The other thing about this organization that I want to get into before we have to go here, Ryan, is you could say that when you look at this year, Cup is basically a write-off, other than AJ on the road courses, more than likely. Some people might be, drinking the Daniel Hemrick Kool-Aid, and you're welcome to do that, but I'm not. But I'm excited for the Kaulig Xfinity Series season, just because, you get to see SVG. Let's see how he adapts to running ovals. There are going to be some ovals where he's running 24th, 25th, and just can't figure it out. But SVG and Allmendinger throughout the year on the Xfinity side is great, but I got to tell you, man, Chandler Smith's going to be going over and driving an 81 JGR Toyota. Derek Kraus is not really a legitimate prospect. Who's the other guy they had run at the end there?
Lane Riggs, and he has a full-time truck deal now with somebody else, so he's off the board.
So, I got to raise the question, man. What we talked about a year ago, how Kaulig could develop this pipeline for sustainability. As much as the Xfinity side, at least with 2 other guys, excites me, you got to know that SVG is more than likely an extremely short-term fix and will be in a Trackhouse car eventually. But I see no long-term future right now in this organization. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of, I think you're right. I mean, listen, 2024, there's nobody that excites me in terms of long-term success, because we know, listen, as much as we love AJ, we know his time is short. He's probably got a handful of more years left, and when he's gone, Kaulig is going to be in a world of hurt. I'm a little bit more excited about Josh Williams than you are. I'm not expecting him to set the world on fire, but I expect him to run competitively, similar to, Landon Castle and even Daniel Hemrick to some extent. Lots of top 10s, 15s. But you're right. There's nobody in the pipeline that says, "Oh my God, this guy is the next prospect." And truly, the Xfinity Series this year is stacked, absolutely stacked with talent. And AJ and SVG are included in that talent pool. But when you look at the other organizations and what, JGR, RCR, even what Ford is doing now with kind of kicking the tires a little bit more on their programs, like they have some prospects, and right now, Kaulig and truly Chevy as a whole. Let's see. I mean, just look at the Chevy board. They don't have a lot going on right now, and that's a real problem. And I don't know if that's something they can resolve in the years to come and find somebody in the Truck Series or even find somebody in the ARCA Series that they can take a chance on. But it's a real concern. But again, especially with the Xfinity Series, the deck is going to get reshuffled in 2025. There's going to be more open seats, more young kids coming up. That there are at least opportunities to find talent. But it is bleak looking at it going into this year. And you're right, the Cup Series, Daniel Hemrick, he might rattle off a handful of top 10s, probably a lot of 20th place finishes. And whoever gets some 16 starts in the 16, probably about the same. Again, I'm just banking on them giving AJ quite a few starts, not only on the road courses but on the ovals he's good at, and at least be competitive. But you're right. My excitement level is clearly in the Xfinity Series this year, and listen, again just rolling it back, I do think Josh Williams will at least have competitive season. I don't expect him to go out and win, and he's definitely not a future prospect. But I think he's going to surprise you a little bit.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think he'll perform even to the level of what Landon Castle did, to be honest. I hope he does. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope it ends up being a good hire for the organization, for Josh, for Chris, Matt, everybody. I don't want it to be bad. I just call things like I see them. And this guy is getting that ride simply because he has a sponsor attached to him now, much like Landon Castle got his ride. And if that money dries up, he'll be the first guy out the door. And we'll see. I hope it all works out. I do. But if I'm betting a lot of money, which I'm not, but if I was, I would say very few top 10s, especially with how stacked it is. And he'll be a car that runs about 20th place, in my opinion. The tracks that he's good at, maybe a little bit better. But I've also watched this guy run on road courses, and he looks like he doesn't understand that you can turn right as well at times. Sorry, just calling it like I see it. And we'll see what happens. Daniel Hemrick, same thing. I don't think there's going to be a handful of top 10s unless he flukes into it. I think that is going to be a transaction that is highlighted and picked apart by the media all season long. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they find success, and I hope I look like the biggest fucking idiot in the world for criticizing that signing to the level that we did. I don't think we will be. I think we'll be talking about an organization that is considering selling one, if not both, Cup charters post this season or next. I hope that's not the case. That's just what I predict at the current moment.
Yep. Well, I will say this. One thing and obviously this is not the show. We'll do this as we get closer to the start of the season. But we definitely should talk about what our expectations are, right, going into this season. So, again, what I expect from Daniel Hemrick at the Cup Series is probably a little bit more than you are. But what would be deemed a good year, right? Are we talking, 3 top 10s, 5 top 10s? Right. So anyway, I'm curious to see what benchmark we would set that say this is not a bad year, because I think it's very subjective. He's not going to light the world on fire, but neither did Justin Haley, right? If he can even get anywhere close to what Justin Haley did in the 31 last year, I would call it a success.
I would think a good passing season, just to be like broad with it, would be like, somewhere in the top 23 or 24 points. That doesn't mean the organization is going in the right direction. It just means they're not sinking any quicker than they did last year. To me, I don't have a reason to be hopeful on the Cup side right now. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to get that hope back, that spark back. I'd love it if AJ did start 16 races and we've seen like 9 top 10s or something. It'd be great. I'm just not expecting it. So yeah, Hemrick, I think he'll be around 30th in points. But we'll see what happens. And on the Xfinity side, I think if Williams finishes in the top 15 in points, I think that's probably a successful season for him. Like you said, it's a stacked lineup. I think expecting that car to make the chase right now would be a little foolish. And then AJ, as much as I'd like to say championship, Kaulig, just horsepower has not been there on the Xfinity side at all the last couple of years. So I would say definitely in the chase, definitely, multiple wins, and we'll see how far he goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think AJ's realistic expectations will be round of 8. As you said, the round of 8, unfortunately, aren't very good tracks for Kaulig. So it's going to be hard to get into the final 4 unless he has a spectacular season. But with the amount of talent that's in the Xfinity Series, how much money is getting poured into the Xfinity Series, it's incredible. So I really think he's probably going to regress a little bit from the win totals of his previous full-time seasons. He's had 5 the last couple. I'm thinking he's probably going to be around 3 this year or upcoming year when that's fair to go with. But I do think both SVG and AJ will make the chase simply because they're going to win on a road course. Josh Williams will probably, as I agree, top 15 is where he's at. And 30th in points in the Cup Series. Not out of the realm. Like, I'm not going to sit here and shit on it because it is certainly possible. Even, Rick Ware Racing, I think, is going to make a big step forward this year. But if he's not at least 25th in points, I would be pretty upset with that. I mean, that's setting a pretty low bar even at 25th. And if he can't exceed that, I will jump on the train of saying, get this joker out of here. So I think that's the bare minimum for me. Anything lower than that's a devastatingly horrid season.
Yeah, well, time will tell. We'll be back sometime after the holidays, hopefully shortly after the holidays are over, to talk more in depth about Kaulig heading into the 2024 season. Ryan, final thoughts as we go off here.
I'm more disappointed than I ever thought I would be at this time of the year. Just AJ's win at the Roval was a real, jolt of lightning, but they ended the season on a whimper. The news has not been good. I'm hoping that they right the storm. They go into 2024. Hopefully this Trackhouse Alliance means something and performance is going to improve even slightly. I'll take slightly better. And if it does, they'll have a chance to win races. Now, Cup, crap. But I definitely think the Xfinity team is going to have a pretty good year.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to keep up to date with everything we have going on here at the channel. Once again, we'll be back with either weekly or bi-weekly updates as we get closer to the season and throughout the season. So be on the lookout for that. For Ryan, I'm Sean. We'll see you next time. Have a great holiday. Be safe. Safe travels.
Happy holidays, everybody.